Second Forum Chile-Israel on Innovation. Thank you for joining us. I'm Alan Nahum, First Secretary of the Embassy of Chile in Israel. I will be responsible for hosting the welcoming greetings of our authorities and senior officers and experts for the opening of this 4-day program lasting 2 weeks, 2 Israeli speakers per day, accompanied by a Chilean moderator that will be dedicated to the innovation ecosystem and Israeli Academy. This forum is organized by the Embassy of Chile in Israel within the Chilean Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Scientific Commission of the Council of Rectors of the Chilean University's CRUCH, with the support of the Chilean Economic Development Agency, Corfo, the spin-off of the Chilean Manufacturing Industry Association, SOFOFA-HUB, and the Ministry of Science, Technology, Knowledge, and Innovation of Chile. The forum will allow us to meet relevant Israeli personalities and experts to better understand the internationally recognized maturity of the Israel science and innovation model, and to explore possibilities to conduct and establish international collaboration. The program right now, as you can see on the screen, and also by clicking on the program tab on the registration form, from day 1 to day 4, starting today and continuing on the 2nd, the 7th, and finishing on the 9th of December, explaining the innovation ecosystem and its synergistically interactions among the industry, academy, and the state, and the current transformation due to the pandemic situation. Our guest speakers are key Israeli institutions, Startup Nation Central, the Israeli Advanced Technology Industries, IAT, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, the Technion Institute of Technology, and the Sustainable Group. Dear friends, I would like to invite the Vice President Research of the Universidad de Concepción and President of the Research Committee of the Council of the Rectors of the Chilean University's CRUCH, Professor Andrea Rodríguez, for her opening words.
Good morning. On behalf of the Research Committee of the Council of Rectors of the Chilean University, I'm pleased to welcome to the second Israel-Chile Forum on Innovation. I join the previous greetings to the authorities that are present today. I would like to thank them to be here because your presence is important to support this kind of event. Last year, at the first version of this forum, we have the opportunity to visit Israel, where we saw different institutions that are part of the academic and innovation ecosystem. But overall, we saw a strategy that put knowledge and innovation at the core of our country's development. As the research committee, we share that vision. And despite the difference between our countries, we believe that learning about a well-established and developed system can help us to define our own strategy to push forward science, innovation, and entrepreneurship with the goal of a sustainable development of our country. I would like to especially thank the speakers who were willing to share their knowledge and experience with us. But also I would like to acknowledge the work done by Alan Nahum, my previous speaker, and also by Adrian Palacios, who was on my position only 3 weeks ago, because they put together the program and make, together with others behind, this forum possible. So thank you to all of you. So finally, I just wish a very successful and productive meeting for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Andrea Rodríguez. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to call on the Vice Minister of Science, Technology, Knowledge, and Innovation of Chile, Mrs. Carolina Torrealba, to kindly deliver an opening speech.
Thank you very much, Alan. Thank you, Andrea, and all the rest of the authorities. I see Rossi over there, also from Corfo. It's an honor to be here. I'm very pleased to be here and to talk to you in this event, in this location where institutions from Chile and Israel can get together and discuss about innovation and academia. it's been a really challenging year for the world, of course, but and sure it has been for our country also. We've been challenged maybe as we've never experienced before, with the climate crisis, pandemic of COVID-19. We've been living also a social-political crisis in our country, and the only thing that we are really, really sure about is that all those challenges demand more science and innovation. And we have to really move on that direction faster. So this event, it's important for us to really understand how a country like Israel has done the path before. This year is also an important year for us because it marked the beginning of the implementation of the Science and Technology and Innovation Ministry that I'm leading. This year, it was a very difficult year to start a ministry, but also maybe an important year to say we really, really need this with more importance in our country. And I would like to thank all the representatives also of the universities here present, Andrea, Adrian, because the university system has really been partners for us in this implementation process, in this year, you know. And I would like to talk a few things about, of course, about entrepreneurship and innovation. That it's one of the biggest challenges in the implementation of the new ministry. So the first definition when we started to implement the new institutionality, and one of the reasons of why we created it actually was because the system was completely fragmented. And we have very dispersed instruments in different public agencies or in different ministries without really being coordinated. So the efforts were not really as efficacious as we wanted. So we need them to put them together in a common view under a common policy. And the other problem was that really there was a strong separation between instruments and policies that pushed, you know, science and the instruments that were targeted to improve our entrepreneurship systems. They were not really intertangled together. So the science and technology system was like in a completely different role. So we decided, of course, and the law that created the ministry said it like that the new agency and it should have not only basic science instruments, but also technology transfer instruments and entrepreneurship instruments. So the first thing we did, and it's going to be like the first year of implementation of this new agency, it's going to be next year. And we're going to have a bunch of instruments that were all separated together, trying to give some coherence to our system between from the training, you know, to the individual research grants, to the associated research grants, to technology transfer instrument, and finally entrepreneurship and innovation policies and instruments. So the second thing we did, apart from this remodeling the system, and as we're going to start next year, was the creation of a new instrument called Startup Science, which funds startups or even people, scientists that have a new technology that, of course, we're selecting the most disruptive technologies for seed funding. You know, the first thing we wanted to do also is to say, okay, this new ministry, we not only fund and care about the science and technology, but also of entrepreneurship. So we wanted to give that strong signaling to our system. You know, we're moving in that direction and we really care about the whole system. We need to put together, we need to orient also our science and technology in order to create more companies, in order to create value to our country. And of course, to diminish the risk of our scientists and our people developing science and technology really are not very, fond of moving to a more riskier environment. We need to change that in our country also. So this instrument also has that aim. And we piloted a new version of this instrument this year with very few projects, but it was the first experience, and we received a lot of applications, more than 400, and it helped us not only to see the diversity of projects. It was very hard to give them to close the contest. We want to with the experience of this first year, which was very, very interesting, we want to do a second version next year. We're going to triple the budget, and we're probably changing some of the things we incorporated in the first one in order to of course, as the first experience, we have some things to be improved, and we're going to change it now for the next year. The third thing we've done is to characterize our system. We need to know how is our system on science and technology and on science-based entrepreneurship. So we did a first radiography of the system and trying to see how are the science-based companies in our country, which are the most frequent areas they work on, which are the most difficult challenges for them, how are they distributed in our country. And we published that a few months ago, and we're going to do it next year also. And of course, we also are working on the editorial line we're giving to this area. So of course, I don't think we're going to start focusing immediately on specific industrial areas or something like that, but definitely in an editorial line, we really want to push science-based entrepreneurship, which has a strong commitment to sustainability, working on gender balance, territoriality, etc. And the other challenge that we're facing for the next year is to work in a project that really can help on community building. So we have a few people working on this area on Chile, and we need to really work on community building, on soft skills, on building this startup culture in science and technology in our country. And I think an event like this, and also all the cultural change we've lived in our country and in the world actually with the pandemic, can really help us to build this community building on a startup culture with a broader sense, and maybe together with our friends from Israel. So we have a lot of challenges for the next year. We have to implement this new institutionality, give them coherence, work with academia, work with the Ministry of Economy, with Corfo, which is the institution with which we've been working on this project. Give a broader, view to that policy, and really, really, really give a strong signaling to our science and technology community. We're moving in that direction because our country needs it, because the world needs it. And if we really want to go fast track on putting much more science and technology to our country, we need to learn, and we really need to move on that direction. So these are the first baby steps, but I really want them to be, and I know that our system is willing to go on that direction. And the second challenge, of course, as I said, is to do the second version of the startup science instrument, and we're really happy to have it bigger, and we know we're having a much more group of people on that community. And as I told you, how can we, together with the universities and with the other Chilean agency, continue to characterize our systems and continue to do a really strong community building and build a startup culture in our country. So with those challenges, I would like to wish you, really good luck in this event. I think it's going to be very useful for all our system to be really talking in this and chatting with people that really have, as I said before, has really go through this path and gaining experience on your experience. So thank you very much, and have a very, very good event.
Thank you, Mrs. Vice Minister. May I invite the CEO of Innova Chile, of the Chilean Economic Development Agency, Corfo, Mrs. Rocío Fonseca, to deliver an opening address.
Thank you, Alan. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, Israel. Good evening. Good afternoon, Israel, and good evening, Chile. And today, you're going to start a 3-day program, and it's basically going to be talking about science, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And Israel is doing great on that already, so congratulations. And I hope so that you can mix together and you can help us to change our mindset, to change our culture, because today you can see that we have the academia, we have entrepreneurs, we have researchers, right? And we have a lot of needs, and today we are not talking together. We are not mixing, we are not driven by a purpose, right? So I hope that during these 3 days, we can really connect with each other, and I hope universities can mix with startups, with entrepreneurs, and start doing a mission-driven R&D, for example. We need today, as Carolina said, we need to change our country, and we need to add value to our economy. We need to improve, sophisticate, and diversify the Chilean productive matrix. And Chile is one of the most affected countries due to climate change. So you know how to do things, and I would love to be with you during these 3 days just to share a common purpose. We really need to think about our future, and today we're living in an inflection point that really need us to think about what are the things that we need to change and how can we connect with each other. So I encourage you to have 3 days of full conversations, get out of your comfort zone, start to connect, and remember that innovation is all about thinking different to solve a problem, to achieve a goal, but together. So enjoy the 3 days. You have awesome speakers, and I wish you luck. So I hope to see you soon, guys.
Thank you, Mrs. Rocío Fonseca. Thank you very much. On behalf of Ambassador of Chile to Israel, Rodrigo Fernandez, that is not feeling well right now, I will be reading his welcoming address. I want to welcome all of you to the inauguration of this forum. I want to express my recognition to Professor Andrea Rodríguez, VP Research of Universidad de Concepción, and the VPs Adrián Palacios, Universidad del Paraíso, and the VP of the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile, Professor Pedro Buchón, for doing this initiative. I also want to thank Alan Nahum for his permanent compromise and contribution to this forum. Last year, a first seminar was held, and it brought 14 Chilean universities to Israel, an opportunity that allowed the development of a very intense program of contacts and knowledge of the reality of this country in terms of innovation and technology transfer. Today begins the second forum that seeks to deepen this process. Israel has developed a very successful model of its innovation and technology transfer ecosystem, which has transformed this sector into the engine of its economy with a great social impact. One of the essential aspects of this innovative model is the way in which the public, private, and academic sectors are linked and interact. The purpose of this forum is to know the useful aspect of the technological transfer and innovation ecosystem in Israel's scientific universities, and also to have a clear map of its institutional framework, and to know the players and actors involved in the roles that each one plays. Knowing the Israeli model and in more detail opens the opportunity to enrich our own framework, even if it's not possible to develop it in exactly the same way. At least it serves as an inspiration to know where and how to move forward. The reality that we currently face as a country forces us to seek better development models in terms of innovation. There is a potential that must be explored and must be functional to the social needs in front of which all the relevant players of the country must join forces to increase their capacity to produce real and practical solutions. Finally, I think it's important to generate interinstitutional links that allow to continue with exchange of experiences beyond annual meetings. I wish you success in this event, and I hope that it will serve to improve our capacities as a country in the area of innovation in a very broad sense. Thank you very much. So we thank you the words of Ambassador Rodrigo Fernandez. Our first meeting will be moderated by Mrs. Magali Maida, Deputy Director of Technology Transfer at the Pontifical University, Catholic University of Chile. I'm sure that you will enjoy the program. Mrs. Magali Maida, please, the computer screen and the floor is all yours.
Magali,
I think that
silencio.
the microphone is off.
Sorry. Okay, again. So good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, Israel. Shalom Aleichem. As Alan mentioned, I'm Magali Maida, and I will be moderating today's session. This first session will be related to investment in innovation and startups in Israel, projects and opportunities for Chile. For today's session, we have two speakers, each of which will carry out a 30-minute presentation. And after each lecture, we will open a 15-minute space for questions from the audience. At the time we open each space for discussion, and in view of the time we have, I will ask you to write down the questions in the question and answer chat. This is very important. Please remember question and answer chat, including your name and institution, so that I can further read those questions to the speakers. So having said that, I am pleased to introduce our first speaker, Bered Mibsari. Bered is Strategic Countries Director at Startup Nation Central. Although I don't need to explain what is Startup Nation Central, just to make if you remember, it's an independent nonprofit organization that builds bridges to Israeli innovation by connecting business, government, and NGO leaders from around the world with Israeli innovation, offering Israeli innovators and industry leaders access to high potential and previously inaccessible markets through highly customized business engagement. Ms. Mibsari works with strategic countries partners to map the most pressing and challenging needs in those countries and match them with Israeli innovators who can best answer these needs with the aim of building business bridges between Israel and other countries. So Bered, you are welcome to share your screen, and the audience is all yours.
Thank you. Okay, can you see the full screen?
Perfect.
full screen? Yeah, okay, great. So, hello and good afternoon and good morning, wherever you are. And my name is Vered Muftari, Strategic Country Director at Startup Nation Central. On my background, I worked in the Embassy of Israel in New Delhi for 3 years. I lived in Delhi for 3 years. I worked in the embassy in a commercial department in order to help for Israeli company to do business in India. And today at Startup Nation Central, I lead the emerging market and India, Africa, and Latin America. And thank you so much for inviting me and having me today. And I would like to start with a few words about us. So as you mentioned, and thank you for the introduction. So Startup Nation Central, it's an independent nonprofit and build a exactly as you said, for the Israeli ecosystem in tech. And I just want to add and emphasize that all our services is for free. We're not taking any fee from any side that we work with. And we connect business and government and NGO leaders from all around the world with the Israeli innovation. And we have 3 core activities. The first is knowledge-based creation. So we map the Israeli ecosystem, collect data and analysis. And the second, enhancing the Israeli innovation ecosystem. So we identify the technological sectors with a high growth potential, helping them to mature. We promote the tech ecosystem as a whole, not specific company. We promote all the ecosystem. And we exposing them to global audience, helping them develop practical tools, attracting investors, and establishing and nurturing tech community to increase collaboration and knowledge-based sharing to skill expansion, and also as part of strengthening the high-tech sector, we have created a system of training and integrating additional human capital into this sector. And the third core activities is connecting to the world. We have the Startup Nation Finder. It's a free online platform for discovering and connecting with 1,000 of relevant investors. We accumulate a knowledge base, generate in-depth insight about Israeli innovation sector, sharing this with our clients and partners. We produce report and additional asset at regular intervals through the year. Regarding specific sector and the ecosystem as a whole. And for example, sometimes we do a very specific report. For example, for a multinational, they are active in Israel and different model, and I will elaborate a little bit later on. And also innovation bridges, that it's our department. So we focus in specific markets around the world, and one of them, it's Latin America and Chile. And of course, we will be very happy to collaborate in order to help for Israeli startup to implement their technology in Chile and to strengthen the relationship and the trend between the countries. As I mentioned, we have the Finder, the Startup Nation Finder. It's an online platform, it's free, It's open, it's very easy to search and find many technology and even subsector and even specific technology that you can find easily by tag. And here you can see an example for how it looks. It's not only about the company, it's also here you can see it's a company, it's investors, it's hub, it's academic research that it's ready to the industry. So we have around 7,000 Israeli startups in all the sectors. Some of them it's in a private level, so you can see today around 6,500 startups in all the sector. For each startups here you can see the profile, a lot of data, how many workers, when is established, raised, and other information for each startup. You can connect them directly. You can request for intro. Also, you can create your collection and then to download to your computer. So it's very easy and friendly platform. So that is the Finder. And few words about Israel. So as you all know, you may, and I'm sure that you all know that Israel is a very tiny country, and you can see the pushpin with a long leg because it's very small. Otherwise, I hide Israel and all the neighbor around. So that it's Israel and of course Chile. And in Israel we have 9.1 million population only, and an employee 4.1 million. But the most interesting and important in this slide, it's the high-tech workforce that we have in Israel. Only 300,000 workforce in the high-tech, but even we have only 300,000 workforce in Israel, it's 7.8% for the employee, but in the GDP, it's 30%, and industrial export, it's 46%. It means that it's a big issue in Israel, that the high-tech and the startups and the ecosystem, it's very important. It's one of the engine of the Israel economy, and that's a reason that we try to help for the Israeli startups to grow and the ecosystem to continue to be very strong and vibrant ecosystem, and to continue to be a startup nation. And I would like to share with you some fact about Israel. So first, Israel, it's a ranking first in R&D investment. And as I mentioned, we have around 6,500 innovative company startups. And we have a lot of entrepreneurs in Israel. It means that we have for 1,400 people, we have one startup. And you can imagine the number. If I said that we have 6,500 startups and we have 1,400 startups that establish every year. So it's a lot of entrepreneurs in Israel. And of course, not all of them are achieve the mature startups and the targets in order to establish and be a big company, but a lot of entrepreneurs with a lot of new idea come every year in Israel. And Israel, it's ranking third according to the World Economic Forums in innovation ranking. So what is unique in Israel? It's a combination. It's not only about innovation and innovative ecosystem, it's also about entrepreneur and the combination between the entrepreneur and the innovation. And I think that is what makes Israel a unique ecosystem and very vibrant ecosystem of tech. And also you can see that in Israel, the VC investment per year, so Israel is ranking #1, of course, per capita, but also in the absolute number, it's a very high number in the absolute number as well. So I think that it's a part of and very important of the ecosystem in Israel. And if I speak about the evolution of the ecosystem, so we can see that the venture funding increased dramatically and rapid up since 2013. But actually, also before in the early 19, it was a big group that came to Israel from the Russian area. They came with the knowledge, they came with experience, but they came without language. And the government realized that the potential, and actually it was the first VC in Israel that the government announced for $100 million scheme for R&D and develop a new technology. And that actually was the first VC, and today we have in Israel more than 150 VCs in Israel. But you can see how it's the evolution of the ecosystem in venture funding. I think one more point that it's unique in Israel, that even we are a very small ecosystem. Remind you, only 300,000 workforce in the tech. We are a very diversity of innovation. So we can see not only that Israel, it's not only focused in one sector or few sector, very diverse diversity in innovation in the sectors. And also that it's some interesting that it's happening in Israel, and that we can see technologies that move from one discipline to another. And I think that also one point that we can see here, that Israel is very strong in technology. And probably it came 50 years ago from the military that Israeli developed high-end of technology. We didn't have any option to develop the edge of technology, since we have enemies around the countries. So over last 50 years, we continue to develop the high end of technology in the military. But today we can see the technology that developed to the military. Today we can see it in all over the sectors. We can see in ag tech technology that came from the military, and even in fashion sector, we can see some technology that developed to the military, and today we see it in other sector. And I think that it's the most relevant for Chile can be cyber and ag tech, and of course digital health, but it's three main sector in Israel. We have in Israel a lot of solution in ag tech, and I think that it came from necessity that in Israel we are basically agriculture country, so we have a lot of solution, and as I mentioned, we have a lot of entrepreneur in Israel, and so the entrepreneur try to solve first the local challenge and issue, and to improve the life and solution for the local needs. But after they realize that they don't have market, so they have a very good solution without market. So from today we can see a lot of startups that from the day one they started to develop the need to find a target market and to regard and to see that the target market, and in this case, I think that it can be a win-win, and to find a market that can be relevant for Israeli startups in Chile and Latin America. And of course, in digital health, we have a lot of solution. We have in Israel more than 500 Israeli technology in the digital health. And again, one of the reasons that we have a digital health very strong in Israel, that we don't have a market, so we have to connect remotely with other markets, and that is create the digital health. And again, the technology that it's very strong in Israel, it's also part of the digital health. And of course, the cyber, it's important and very strong in Israel because the military and the way and the fact that we need to secure everything. And also since we are, we have a digital health and a lot of digitalization, so we need to secure the digital. So one of the way to secure it's of course the cyber security. And here I would like to mention that also something that I guess it's unique for the ecosystem in Israel, that we have a lot of multinational that are active in Israel. And when I say active, they decided, as you know, there's many multinational that are active all around the world. But what is unique? The fact that it's unique that the multinational decided to open, and here you can see 3 different type of multinational operate in Israel. They decided to open R&D or innovation center or arm in Israel, but not to take the Israeli startup to the target market. And as I mentioned, the target market, it's not Israel, it's the multinational local place, but they decided to open the R&D center in Israel and to help and to allow the startup to continue to develop the technology according to the need of the multinational, but to stay and keep staying in Israel until they finish to develop the technology, because in Israel, the environment, the condition, and everything, it's a very good place for the startups to continue, and they realize it's better to the startups to continue to develop in Israel, and for the multinational to invest the time and the workforce to come to Israel and to open the R&D or partnership or investment in Israel, in different kind of investment. And today we see, and as I mentioned, we publish a very interesting report of multinational that operate in Israel. And I didn't mention, but all our report, it's free. You can find at our website all the report and all the resources that we have, we publish for free. So one of them, it's a very interesting report of the multinational that are active in Israel. And of course, according to the year, you can see again the same trend that a lot of multinational we have in Israel since 2017, and more than 530 multinational in Israel. And also one more point that again it's a bit unique. It's that we have in Israel 80% of B2B startup. That we can say that we are a B2B nation, because 80% for the startup it's for B2B, and we don't have the local market, so we are far away from the large markets abroad. And that's why 80% of our tech companies aim for selling their product to a small base of large corporates, rather than to millions of end users. That's one of the reasons that the collaboration of cybersecurity, Industry 4.0, agriculture, mining, and also energy, it's a win-win for the Israeli ecosystem, since we don't have the market. And so if we don't have the market, so we can understand exactly the need and the challenge for other markets. So I think that it's a good opportunity for Chile and Israel to collaborate. And for Israel, it's win-win. And you can imagine that the startups need to regard the first market, or even any market, when they start to develop. And I think in this case, it will be very interesting for investors in Chile to invest in the Israeli technology. And in this case, of course, it's to invest in the early stage, in the development stage. And here you can see the number, the B2B. You can see the amount, you can see the number of round raised, how many company raised we have in each year in a B2B, and also in a B2C. So you can see that according to the number, it's 4.5 times around, for more in the B2B more than a B2C. I think one more that can be interesting for investors, it's to see the rounds of investment in Israel. So you can see here that over the years, and I put for a second the 2020 from the side, because on the side, because we don't have the real numbers until the year will end. But if we're looking for the 2019 and even 18, we can see that the main round of investment is a seed round, and the pre-seed, it's almost the same on the over last years, and the rest, I think it's also almost the same over the years. But I think the most interesting is to see that the seed round, it's the most popular to invest in Israel. And I think that it's one of the reasons that I already mentioned, that it's like cost effective in a seed stage, that first it's not only idea, it's not only you know, something it's after prototype with technology. Some of them, they already test the technology on the ground or on the target market. And so that it's a cost effective for investor to invest. And so that's the reason that I add this slide special for you. And I would like to take one sector that I think it's can be very interesting, and please let me know about the time if I have 2 more minutes to describe the water sector in Israel.
Yes, I think you can take some more minutes, a few of them, please.
Okay, thank you. So water in Israel, it's a big issue. Israel actually, I think similar for Chile, it's a desert. More than 80% of Israel, it's a desert. And we were a big issue with water, with lack of water. But today, and not anymore. Today we solve all the problem with the water. And And today you can see in Israel that I think Israel is the first one in a recycling water for agriculture. And today, I think it's Israel, it's the first one. And the second, it's about 30% only that reuse for water for agriculture. And here, that it's also from the urban water to the agriculture water, that it's in Israel, it's very famous, or all the water from the urban water are going to the agriculture. And the desalination, I remember 2 or 3 years ago that before we complete all the plants of desalination plants that established. So we had a very issue with drinking water, but today, with the desalination from the salt water from the sea, we don't have any problem anymore with water. I also can share with you that I remember when we were little, so we allowed only to take a shower for 3 minutes. And also I remember the campaign of Israel is drying, with a lady with a face that her face will dry, and that it's like Israel. So we have to keep to keep every drop of water. And it was a big campaign how to grow more with less water. And even today, the water, it's expensive in Israel. It's not cheap in Israel because the desalination process, because we need to save the water in order to continue to be a water safe country. And also, I think one more thing that I can say about the water, that also water for agriculture, it's not only about the recycling water and reuse water for agriculture, it's also about the drip irrigation, that Israel developed a drip irrigation 30 years ago. It was a very innovative technology for Israel. And today, I think almost all Israel with drip irrigation by many companies. And today we can see in innovative technology is technology that in the last 5 years, new technologies have been developed based on the initial drip irrigation solution, like fertilizer that it's come with a drip irrigation, or control the drip, or autonomous drip irrigation that they can fill the roots, and then they can decide where to give more water or less water to the plant according to the needs, and to maximize the water that the plants need. And more like end drip, it's one of the technology irrigation that they require a very less pressure for drip irrigation without the big system. It's a very local system for drip irrigation, like for example, Netofim required a big infrastructure of grid water in order to bring the water to the field and for drip irrigation. And so there's many other technology that developed according to the need and according to the to save water and to increase the yield with less water. So I will stop here. Thank you so much.
Perfect. If you can stop sharing screen so that we can start with the questions. Thank you. Thank you for this very enlightening presentation. And we will now open the space for questions. First question comes from University of Valparaiso's Vice President for Research, Mr. Adrián Palacios. He asked, in your experience, how complex would it be to have a startup finder or similar in Chile?
Oh, it's a great question. Thank you for the question. Yeah, 3 years ago, we decided to take the finder and to give it for countries as a free. It means to give it for a gift, but of course it's a little bit expensive gift, but we're charging only for storage, for training how to use, but we definitely want to give it for countries in order to help their ecosystem, to map their entire ecosystem, and to collaborate ecosystem to ecosystem, to develop together, to share challenge, to do activities together. And today we signed, we call it Global Finder Network, and we signed the contract with 5 countries, and with a very successful result. And we are connecting between the countries, and we would like to see more and more countries that share the knowledge and map their entire ecosystem. And the way to, so please contact us. We'll be very happy to continue to discuss the Global Finder Network together, and we'll be very happy to collaborate in this case, and also in other activities, in order to strengthen the relationship between countries, with the ecosystem, and yeah.
Thank you. Let me continue, make a follow-up with that question. Did you have experience in doing this with other Latin American countries, and if so, how complex was that for the countries, considering the I don't know, cultural and other differences and ecosystems difference between Israel and Latin American countries, or other countries similar to us?
Yeah, so I think, you know, every country, it's a unique countries with a special need, let's say, or in your case, I can see only the language, but since we are collaborate already with Thailand, with New Zealand, with Taiwan, so I don't think that the language is an issue. I don't think that the culture business is an issue. I think that it's opportunity. It's opportunity to collaborate with different culture business with different countries, and of course we have the since we have the experience, with own experience for more than around 6 years. So we have, you know, we have a lot of experience. We know what not to do, and we share everything with our partners. Since we're a non-profit, so we don't want to do it for profit. We just want to collaborate and to do and to see the benefit, and to raise and to increase the collaboration. So I can't see that it's an issue for Latin America or for Chile more than other countries. It's only a process, and I think it's since we are already collaborate with other countries, so and it's worked very well, and I hope that soon we will sign with Africa, with Pan-Africa, and I think it's also challenge, but we can see the challenge, we can see the opportunity in this case, and yeah.
Perfect, thank you. I will follow up with the second question. This question comes from Victor Grimlad. Victor is the managing director at Synopsys. He thanks you for this interesting presentation and asks, how did big changes several years ago to become a high-tech country? Which first steps we should do to change from a commodities country to an added value country in your experience?
Sorry, can you repeat the, if I understand correct, what make Israel as a startup nation on the, over the last 20 years? That is
let me, yes, I think it's around that. Let me reread the question. Victor says, you did big changes several years ago to become what you are now, which is a high-tech country. And then he follows with this question, which is which first steps we, Chile, well, people from Chile should do to do a change from a commodities country to an added value country, same as you did years ago.
Okay, so, you know, I don't think it's a secret that we have any secrets to share with you. I think, you know, it's a lot of ingredients that come together in order to build the ecosystem. And I think one of them that Israel, it's an immigration country. A lot of immigrated came from many countries. You know, Israel, it's a young country. It's about 74 years old. But before that, all the population came from more than 40 different countries, more than 40 different cultures. And for that, they came without experience, without knowledge, without language. So they need to build themselves from zero, from scratch. So they entrepreneur by themselves. So I think one of the main issue in Israel is entrepreneurs. And it's not only about the entrepreneur, it's also about the innovation. And innovation come again from culture, and for good and for bad reason. I think that's one of the most things that we can see in Israel, that always we comply. We comply with everything. And we think that we can do the best. And if I do, if I did it, I did it in a different way, in a better way. I can improve it. I can do it in shorter time, you know, everything. So I think that it's one of the sense for entrepreneur and for innovation, that you have the sense and say to yourself, and you know, you have the good eyes to see things and think how you can do it different, in a different way, in a better way, in an efficient way, fast way, in a higher position or higher quality. And I think that it's the one more things. And of course, the combination between them. So it's, as I said, the entrepreneur and the innovative in Israel, that it's the combination. I think that it's one of the, let's say, secret. I think the third thing, it's a technology. Technology that, again, it came from probably from the military, that in Israel, it's mandatory to serve the army. So it's for women and for men. For women, and once you serve the army, so each and everyone need to use the gun, need to learn how to use it, need to use it by themselves. Some of them need to develop a high end of technology, since we have the, you know, we have the enemies around us. So we need to develop the technology by ourselves. So it means that very young people, after 3 years, after they finish to serve in the army, so they came with the knowledge, they came with experience, and they also took a very serious decision during the army. And so they're very young people, after only 3 years, 21 years old, 22 years old, and they feel that they can do everything. They can reach every, you know, top of the challenge that you will raise for them. So I think that it's one more thing that make the ingredient together in order to build the ecosystem. But you know, of course, I don't want to recommend you to other things around you.
I do understand. Thank you very much.
That it's necessary. But the other, I really recommend, you know, to develop and to open the eyes around your place and to try to do things and develop and to do things more and more. And of course, you know, that I think multinational, they are come to Israel, it's like an academy for the startups. Because we, as I mentioned, we don't have the target market. We're not closing to the challenge. Because in Israel, we don't have the market, so we don't have the real challenge of the world that the world needs to solve. So the multinational that are coming to Israel, it's like an academy for the startups. They like a best for them in order to develop the right and correct technology according to needs that they can raise and help them to step by step to develop according to the multinational needs. So I think that it's also one of the ingredients.
Okay, thank you. We have many, many questions. In view of the time, I will move forward with one and perhaps another one. I apologize for everybody who wants to ask questions.
For more questions, if you want, you can send us an email, and also we can arrange one more meeting, and we'll be very happy to discuss more. And also you can send us an email, and we'll be very happy to continue to discuss over mail or over meetings.
That's great. I think everybody would be delighted with that. We will share your email with the audience after the session, and then we will take your word and ask you to have some time again. So Ronald Menikent, he's the research director of University of Concepción, and he also thanks you for the conference and asks two questions. I will raise them very quickly. He would like to know how Israel promote and incentivize the collaboration of academics with the industry. This is an important question for all of us. A lot of us come from the academia side, so we are eager to hear from this. And his second question, which is related to the first, is how does Israel promote transdisciplinary research? For example, the search of solutions from different disciplines, considering the local or community knowledge.
Okay, so for the first for Sigalit, of course, you can share your email, and second, it's a very good question, and again, thank you for the question. So since Israel, it's a small ecosystem, and also it's a small in the size, in the land of so it's very easy to move from one place to another. So if you want to test your technology, you don't need more than 1 hour, 2 hours to reach the hospital to check and test your technology. So it's a very close connection between the academy and the industry. And also I recommend you to go again to the Finder. You can see more than 1,500 Israeli research that it's ready to the industry. So that's also one of the opportunity to collaborate between the academy and the industry. And of course, so I think, and in Israel we have 9 academy, so and a public academy, that it's the main academy in Israel. It's not private, it's public, and it's very close to the industry. One, because the distance is very close, and also it's also about the culture that in Israel, each and everyone like a brother and sisters. We have a very, very warm and close connection each other. So it's very easy to connect, and it's very easy, we call it like a chutzpah in Hebrew. So it's very easy, you don't need to, chutzpah, it's like a way that you're not polite. So polite, it's to go to your manager and he will connect you to his manager. No, it's a regular step-by-step or to go to the CEO. But in Israel, you can connect directly to the CEO and tell him, I need 5 minutes, your attention, I need to check something, I need your guide or your consulting. So it's very easy to do it, and chutzpah, it's part of the culture. So we're not counting as a chutzpah, so we use it. So it's very easy to connect, and I can say that the academy and the industry, it's very close each other, and for startup, it's very easy to test and to connect with the academy. And of course, it's because we are very small countries and ecosystem.
Okay, thank you very much. As I told you, we have a lot of questions, very interesting questions, which I apologize, we will not be able to ask for now, but we promise to send you Vered's email, and we may also gather some other space for a follow-up discussion. So toda rabá, Vered, for this very enlightening presentation. Apologize for the pronunciation though. I will now move to our second speaker, whose reputation precedes her. Her name is Karin Mayer. She's CEO, founder, and president of Israel Advanced Technology Industries, YATI. YATI, as you all probably know, is Israel's umbrella organization of the high-tech, life science, and other advanced technology industries, with over 700 paying members, including VCs, Israeli R&D Center of multinational companies, startups, incubators, accelerators, tech transfer organizations, academic institutions, and so on. Through this broad range of members, YATI connects, as Karin will probably let you know, Israel's technology ecosystem, provides solutions and support at all levels, and integrates the various sectors and resources with strategic and ongoing governmental goals. Karin is also a member of multiple steering committees and keynote speaker of many leading global events and conferences around the world, including the United Nations. She was nominated twice in a row as one of the top 100 influential young business persons in Israel by Forbes magazine, as well as one of the top 40 leading young business persons in Israel by the leading Israeli business newspaper, The Marker. So, and another important thing to mention is that when she studied in Harvard, she learned about a Startup Chile case, and now she's very eager to discuss that with us. Shalom, Karin. The audience is yours, and you are now enabled to share your presentation. You will not be sharing presentation to start your conversation.
So thank you very much, Magali. Thank you very much for everybody. Hi. So you will have to see my face all throughout the presentation. So first of all, I would like to say thank you for Vered from Startup National Central. I had the pleasure to listen to you. It was a very good start. So
it's my pleasure to be on the same stage with you. It's my privilege.
So it is a very good start, and you did it wonderfully. So thank you very much. And I cannot do it better. So I will not present. I will not present a PowerPoint presentation if it's okay. And I'll just speak to you guys. I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing, and I'll talk about the ecosystem from my perspective and about the connection between private sector, government, and the academia, because I understand that most of you are from the academia side. So and by the way, Magali, you can interrupt me whenever you want. You'll see that I'm not doing like a proper presentation, and you just can stop me and you can ask me questions or whatever. Now, I need to say that it was important when you approach us, and I heard that you approached us by my team members. I immediately said, okay, I would like to go up and present, because first of all, I think that Chile is one of the most beautiful countries, and second of all, I did learn about the study case of Startup Chile, and I did quite a lot of work about it. And so actually, you know, so this case study is from a few years ago, but still, I think I have some understanding about what's going on today, and I will be happy to learn more about that. More than to speak, I will be happy to hear from you guys, actually. So just ask me questions. So a little bit about IATI. So I don't see myself on the screen, and I don't see anyone on the screen. So I hope that everybody is with me, right, Magali?
I see you and all the other
oh, great.
panelists.
Okay.
So
okay, no problem. Great. So again, so yes, so my name is Karin, and I am the CEO and the president of IATI's Israel Advanced Technology Industries, which is Israel's umbrella organization of all the high-tech and life science industry. And actually, IATI is a non-profit organization, a private one. And the most unique thing about the IATI that it is funded only by our 1,000 companies who are members at IATI. So it's not a governmental entity or semi-governmental. It's not like Chamber of Commerce. Okay, it's a very, very strong platform, a very small one, by the way. We are a very small platform that work with the 1,000 leading entities in Israel. And these entities who pays us every year money actually include most of the venture capital funds, the Israeli one and the foreign ones operating in Israel. It means that dozens of those, okay, and those venture capital funds that under the IATI, I think, manage most of the money that coming to the high-tech industry. Last year, it was $9 billion. And then we have the multinationals and the Israeli big companies. So starting from the R&D center of Apple and Google and Microsoft and IBM and Intel and Cisco and Facebook and Checkpoint and Iron Source and Matrix and AppsFlyer and a lot of others. And I will deal with it later. And I will also talk about the connection between them to the academia. And then we have the startups, interesting startups. We have all the incubators and the tech transfer organization who belongs, of course, to the academia, okay, to the hospitals. So all the hospitals, again, are under the IATI as members, and lots of other entities, quite a lot of international entities who are interested in Israel, like the Economic Development Organization in a lot of countries, etc. So I work with them as well. And of course, the service providers, the lawyers, the accounting firms, all the big ones and the most substantial ones. So just a word about myself. My background is economic and finance, first and second degree. Also, I'm a lawyer. I was a lawyer. I was a senior partner and managing director of business development in the largest law firms in Israel. Last position was in Herzog Fox Ne'eman, which is the largest law firm in Israel today, doing a lot of commercial work. And I did a lot of work with startups and of course a lot of work with multinational companies, representing them in Israel, etc. In my spare time, which I don't have a lot, I'm also I'm sitting on the board of governance of the Tel Aviv University. All my 3 degrees are from Tel Aviv universities, so I was asked to be on the board of governance, and I was very honored to take this role. I'm also a member of the advising forum of the Faculty of Engineering in the Tel Aviv University, and I'm sitting on other boards, but I will not elaborate on this, but my point is that I'm very much connected. Although I'm very much representing the industry, I'm also very much connected to what's going on in the academia, including universities in Israel and colleges, not just so all the academia. A little bit of what we do, and then I will start talking about the relationship between all the components. So the goal of IATI, yes, is to promote and expand the high-tech industry, not just the high-tech and the life science, okay? Maybe I didn't mention it, but 50% of what I'm doing is also life science. So yes, there is the high-tech, but there is the life science. Then the life science include the digital health, include the pharma, include the medical device, and diagnostics, and etc. So we had a lot of work during the Corona time. Actually, we had much work, and it's important to mention it because we are not working like in an isolated environment, okay? We immediately identifying the challenges with regard to the Corona crisis. If it's the government, if it's with the government, if it's with the industry, and again, I will talk about it in a few minutes. So the goal is to expand and make high-tech strong. We would like to keep it as the growth engine of Israel, and we will do it in some ways, okay? So for the first way is working with the government, okay? I'm a great believer in a PPP, in private-public partnership, and we do it, I think, quite well with the government. I work very closely with all the ministers in Israel that have a connection to the innovation industries. It starts from, of course, the Prime Minister office, to the Treasury, to the Economy Minister, to the Education Minister, to the Science and Technology Minister, and of course all his senior officials, and with the head, the CEO and the chairman of the Innovation Authority, Aaron and Ami Applebaum. We are very much connected because they are the innovation entity of the government. We are the innovation entity of the industry. Now, I would like to remind you again, I'm not funded by them. I'm funded only by the industry. That's why we are so unique. And actually, as I see it, we are the most unique, and among all platforms I see, not just in Israel, but all around the world, okay? Because we don't represent only one sector, like startups, like multinational or VCs. We work with them all. So just imagine, you know, IATI is in the middle and all the sectors are around us, and we make sure that everybody is connected to each other, and together we achieve governmental goals. So it starts from very small goals, but important: regulation, tax regulation, budget of the state of Israel, working with the Ministry of Finance and their divisions to bring more money to the startups and the high-tech industry in Israel. So we have a lot of things with the government, not just business things, and not just rulings, and making sure that the investors will get pre-ruling and rulings for their funds. But I'm talking about much larger things. I'm talking about working together and identify the challenges and bringing the solutions to the ministries. We work very, very close together. Second thing is working very closely on the promoting of technology education. We work very closely with the Minister of Education, and actually we lead some of the biggest projects in Israel to promote technology education among children age 6 to 18, and then promoting technology education with the IDF, with the army in Israel, which I think most of you know that we have an amazing platforms in the army from technology. I will not get into it, 8200, 8100, Mamram, etc. And then we work on this was, you know, when I'm talking about children, it's long term. But when I'm talking about short term, I'm talking about all the people that are after the army and doing training to get these people to work in the high tech, okay? So why do we need more people? Because as of today, we have a shortage of at least 10,000 engineers in Israel. We need much more high qualified human resources in Israel, and we are trying to get them from everywhere, okay? So we are talking a lot about training. And the other thing is that we are not looking only for high-level qualified engineers, but we are also looking to get the minorities, to do diversification, to get minorities, to get the Arabs, to get the religious people in Israel that we don't see them a lot in the workforce. As part of the workforce, it's only like around 3% together. So we would like them to see more and more of them in the high-tech industry. That's why we work a lot on challenges that have connection to the religious people in Israel, the Arab people in Israel, and other minorities. Okay, so this is what we do. And just one more thing, we do a lot of business development for our hundreds of paying members. We do connection and introductions and 200 events a year. And we have the biggest event in Israel for life science in May. And we share a lot of best practices. Yes.
I'm very sorry. Could you please move a little, because we have the sun in your back and we cannot see your face. Yes. Yes. That's
I'm just saying, I'm not sitting now in my office. I'm in one of the ministers now. They were so kind, and they gave me a place now for 1 hour because I have a very important meeting after this lecture. So I'm not sitting in my office, so I'm sorry about, if you don't see me right with the sun. Now it's better?
A little better. If you can move a little,
okay.
Yes, over there.
We'll get to it. Here we are.
Give me just 1 second.
Yeah, okay, I'm good. Okay, so thank you very much. So I would just finish by saying that so we have a lot of business development, and we doing a lot of international work. Until the corona, I was twice a month. I think I traveled all around the world. So every ecosystem I can found, I have to admit that I was not yet in Chile, okay? I was a lot in Latin America, South America, in Brazil I did a lot of work, in Ecuador, in other places, of course, in Europe, in Asia, in the States, etc. But yes, I was not still in Chile, but the reason for me to do this kind of relationship with all the ecosystem around the world is, one, to understand what's going on in other ecosystems. Second, to share best practices, to bring a lot of knowledge, innovation, and information to Israel, to the people here. And of course, to do collaborations and joint ventures together. So this is what we do. If you want, I can stop and you can ask me a question. If not, I will talk a little bit about the academia, whatever you want. I cannot hear you.
Sorry again. Yes. So let me introduce Adrian Palacios' first question. He also thanks for your presentation. He says that the innovation ecosystem in Israel coordinates many companies, NGOs, like Startup Nation, IATI, that coordinate actions, contacts between agencies, companies, people. And then he asks, how do they manage to finance themselves and achieve permanence in time? This is very important for us and for the coherence of the ecosystem.
I will do it very simply, and I will answer this question. There are some organizations in Israel that are government funded, okay, government funding or semi-government funding, and it's okay. And there are some organizations like Startup Nation Central and others that are funded solely by donors, contributors, etc. Okay, from outside of Israel. And as I said, IATI is neither. It was very important for me when I founded this organization, the IATI, and I was the founder of IATI. It was very important for me not to be reliable on anyone, okay? Not to take money from the government, not to take money from grants, not to take money from some donator in Israel or in the world. That makes us completely independent, and we can take decisions very, very fast. We can move very fast to achieve our goals. As I said, we are having a small platform, okay? And I'm using all the best people in the industry to help us think and execute our goals and bring solutions to the table to the very big challenges that we are facing.
Thank you. If the public is okay, we will leave you talking about academia, as you mentioned earlier, for a couple of minutes, and then I will take all the questions which are transversal. Some of them were made for Bered, but I think you can ask them and enlighten us on Israel's ecosystem. So if you can talk a little about academia engagement in all this industry, and then I will go forward with questions.
No problem. So it's not a secret, you know, you have it as well, and I can see it in a lot of ecosystem around the world. There is a triangle. So it's the government, industry, and academia. In Israel, by the way, it's also the IDF, the army. And both parts of this triangle, it's very, very important and essential that they will work together and be synchronized together, because there are mutual goals and mutual not problems, but you know, things that we have to achieve and to find a solution. And the academia is part. It's also part of the goals. It's also part of the challenges and part of the solution. So it's starting with IP. And I cannot get into it because it will take me 2 hours to get into it, but it's starting with an IP. And by the way, I just was nominated like a few weeks ago. The Minister of Justice just nominated me to be a member of the Supervisory Goals Committee of the Israeli Patent Office. It's big and it's big name, but in the end of the day, you know, it's very nice of them that they, you know, I was very honored to be part of this supervisory committee, because it means that the government think highly of me as a representative of the industry to understand the IP and the IP goals that still has to be achieved. And I'm looking at it from the eyes of the industry, of course, but I'm trying to look at the goals of the IP from also the eyes of the academia. It's not just a mistake that we work with all the tech transfer. And they are part of IATI, all the tech transfer. It means that the tech transfer of the Hebrew University, the tech transfer organization of Tel Aviv University, the Haifa University, the Bar Ilan University, the Technion, and all the others. There are around 20. We work together. And in the end of the day, we will have to find the perfect way to work together to commercialize, to keep and commercialize the IP from the academia to the private sector. It's a big deal, it's a big challenge. You know, there are the very best people in this tech transfer of the university and the hospitals, by the way, okay? And together we will have to make sure that this transparency and commercialization will be defined and will be done correctly.
Perfect. I will move forward with some of the questions. Thank you, everybody, for making a lot of questions and comments. I will move to Marcela Angulo's question. Marcela is director for Santiago sede of the University of Concepción. She mentions that, of course, one of the strengths of Israel is the percentage of investment in R&D coming from companies. And she asks, after that, which are the principal actions that the country has taken to incentivize this R&D from industry? And I will add, and this is me asking, how did the government incentivize it also R&D from academia related, of course, to demands from industry and society?
Okay, it's big two questions, okay? Big two questions that I can talk about it for hours. I'll just say like that. Government deal or trying to deal a lot with this challenge and with these issues. Either in the certain governments that are in charge of innovation and R&D, and by the way, it's not so organized today now in Israel. There are few ministries who do that, okay, or should do that. It's being done in the Innovation Authority that is under the Ministry of Economy and Finance, and it's being done in the Ministry of Science and Technology, and their committees, it's being done in other places in the government. I wish that there was one body in Israel that was in charge of all the challenges and the issues concerning the R&D, because I think you all know, and if you don't know, so I will tell you that if you measure R&D as a percentage of GDP in Israel, so in Israel it's 4.3%, and it's the highest percent in the world. So we are ranked #1 in R&D as a percentage of GDP. We have a lot to do and a lot of things to solve in that sense. Academia is working very hard on it. They cannot work alone. They have to work with the industry. The industry, okay, I'm talking about me, but the industry help and should help more to organize the content of what's being studied in the academia and be involved more in the content. In the other hand, be involved more in bringing real solutions for the commercialization, as I said, to the private sector and government. Sometimes they really try, but you know, politics hold the politician, back. So not every time they can do a lot. So we are working with the senior officials also to find a solution. It's a very, very deep and good question that was asked here. I think we have to do like a separate session just on that, and to bring a proper presentation that I will show you the relationship between all of them, all the components together, and what we're trying to make. But okay.
Follow-up question from Sebastian Vega.
Sorry if I was not like right to the point. It's a very, very it's a really, really good question with a very difficult and long answers.
Complex, right? Yes, we understand that, and thank you for trying to, in a very short time, enlighten us. So, follow-up question from Sebastian Vega. Is there a government law that helps foster innovation in Israel? And
Yes.
then he also asks on tax incentives and for incentivizing or fostering innovation and the creation of or the incorporation of international companies in Israel.
Yes, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. First of all, 4 years ago, the law of innovation was enacted. It's not really the name of the law, but the law of innovation was enacted. You know, so I told you I was a lawyer for many, many years. All the things that concerning the law and the legal stuff and the legal stuff, I love it. Yeah, I was sitting in the government and in the Knesset for many days, giving my inputs to this law. So a law of innovation and R&D was enacted, and the old law was changed. So it means that if we had the chief scientist back then, until 4 years ago, so the chief scientist is called now the Innovation Authority, and the Innovation Authority deals with all the things that concerned the innovation in Israel from the government eyes. Okay, so as I said, we work very closely, the head of the Innovation Authority, the chairman and the CEO with me, and we even like in the Corona time, like 3 months ago, we initiated the Industry Government Forum, the IATI and the Innovation Authority initiated the Government Industry Forum, and we brought all the decisions, you know, the hard decisions there, and we asked a lot of organizations to get into this forum, and then private people that really, really smart and know what they're doing, and to give a suggestion in order to solve some of the biggest problem. In the tax authority, yes, they also deal, of course, with innovation. I deal with the tax authority every day, okay? If it's about the VCs fund, if it's about the multinationals, Israel, it's all for one cause. It's to make sure that the stability of doing business in Israel is being kept, okay? And if it's being kept and the certainty I'm looking for more and more certainty of doing business in Israel. If I can get it, it means that we did something right, and the foreign people and the foreign investors and the multinational companies from outside of Israel, etc., that would like to be here in Israel, you know exactly what they are facing. invest in Israel through the VCs or directly, they know exactly what's going on and what they will get. And this is a big part of what IATI do, making sure that to ease the doing business in Israel and to make more certainty for the high tech to continue to be the growth engine. I will just add that I did quite a lot of work with some of the countries in Latin America about building the innovation and bringing a plan and how to do the innovation better, and to help if it's government officials or the academia or the private sector, and I really hope that we can continue, of course, and to start really to work together, Chile and the innovation in Israel.
Thank you. We also.
And I will also add one thing also, because I know there is a lot of questions and we cannot answer them right now. So hear that, okay? Yes, I'm the head of IATI, and still you can really email me, okay? Whatever you like, I will put it on the chat now, okay? My email and everything you need. If you want to contact me, I'm doing it right now. It's Karin at iati.co.il, and I also I'm also on my LinkedIn, okay? So you can find me on my LinkedIn. You can hook me and find me and connect me through the LinkedIn, and I promise you, you will see the result, and you can see that it's very easy to work with us.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We will also share your contact information with the audience.
I just wrote it on the chat, but whatever, you can get it wherever.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I just wrote it privately. Sorry to you. So you have it.
That's okay. I will re-share it with the audience. So let me have some more. I need to pick one. So now Tomás Katz, he's from the Technology Transfer Office of University of Valparaiso, and he asked questions, but one of those questions is whether it's only revenues, considering when looking for criteria of success for mainly startup companies or innovation in Israel, or there are other criteria involved besides the revenues?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Let me rephrase. We are now, or give you some context, we are now in Chile discussing whether the only indicator of success is revenues associated with technology transfer and startup companies, or we need to, which I agree, I fully agree on that, and probably Thomas too. So now he asks whether you think other success criteria should be involved besides getting revenues from this.
This is the biggest question there is. Is it just revenue? It's much more than revenues. It's all start from the R&D. It's all start from the R&D, and the revenue is it's a big thing. Yeah, because I will answer it very shortly. But yeah, the industry and the big companies, when they are talking about commercialization of the IP from the academia, they would like to be as certain as they can when they engage with the researchers and the universities. So it's a conflict that we have here that it's not yet being solved on the timing of the timing of doing the commercialization and the engagement between the researchers, the university, and the private sector.
Perfect. Thank you. Let me see the time. We are on time now, and we know you have another commitment. So, yes. In view of the time, And I would like to thank you very much for this very enlightening presentation.
No, it's a pleasure. You know, I think that in the end of the day, it's very important that the industry, the industry in Israel, you know, will help and contribute as much as they can to develop and to share best practices with other ecosystems around the world. So to help to assist in growing, to assist in collaborating. We still have issues of ourselves to solve. We are far from being perfect, or even not even close. And we really have a lot of issues, and we will solve them one by one. But still, but in the meantime, I think that now that maybe we can start look at the end of the COVID crisis. I'm not even saying, you know, I just heard it's not the end, it's not the beginning, you know, it's not the end, it's just the beginning maybe of the end now. So maybe it's a good time now to start, you know, move things back again. And I hope that pretty soon it will not be only by Zoom.
Thank you very much. Toda Rabah. So today we have heard and discussed about Israel's experience, and in particular from the side of IATI and Startup Nation Central. We see now that it is possible for us to move forward on that path. And of course, there are a lot of spaces for collaboration and synergies between both countries, and in particular with these two fantastic organizations, which will allow us to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, and technology transfer between our countries. With this, we close today's session, and we thank you all once again, and Toda Rabah for Karin and Bered for attending this very productive session. We will send you all a link with the recording of this session and the contact information from the speakers. We invite you to join our second session of this forum, which will address Israeli universities at post-pandemic scenarios, with the presence of Michael Brandeis, the Hebrew University. I'm sorry, he will be speaking from the Hebrew University, and he will talk about virtual teaching in universities in Israel. And then Emma Afterman, she is the head of international policy and foreign relations from the Council of Higher Education of Israel. Please recall that this second session will take place next Wednesday from here in 2 days. That will be December 2nd at the same time as this session. You will receive a reminder for our next session, and you will also receive a link where you can download or listen this session. Thank you once again. Have a nice day, and thank you in particular to the speakers.